Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Listography. Today we are talking about Todd Rundgren and Todd Rundgren's Utopia. Todd was one of the very first artists that I ever really loved as a kid. I loved the song Onomatopoeia, and I have basically been telling anyone who will listen to me about the greatness of Todd Rundgren ever since then. He's known mostly for his 1972 album Something Anything and the string of hits that he had from that record. But his career, as I think this video will show, stretches well beyond that. From 1970 to 1985 alone, he released 20 albums. In that same time period, he also produced 27 albums for other artists. And not just any albums, some really big records. He did Straight Up by Badfinger, he did the first Sparks record, he produced the first New York Dolls record, he produced We're an American Band by Grand Funk Railroad, Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf, Wave by the Patti Smith Group, Skylarking by XTC. He also produced albums for Hall & Oates, Cheap Trick, The Psychedelic Furs, Rick Derringer, The Tubes, Jill Sobule, Bad Religion, and many others. I wanted to do this video now because in his 20th year of eligibility, Todd has been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the first time. He currently sits third in the fan voting behind Def Leppard and Stevie Nicks. So this is my little PSA and see if we can't push him up to the top of that list. So this is going to be a list of all of Todd's solo records as well as his records with his band Utopia. It's 35 albums in all, so I will try to be brief, especially at these records down near the bottom of the list. I'll try to blast through them as quickly as possible to keep the video from being excessively long. Alright, number 35. It's the album Reproduction from 2011. This is a covers album where all of the songs are songs that he produced for other artists. The record is entirely electronic as far as I can tell. I don't think there's any guitars or acoustic instruments anywhere on the record. They're drastically altered versions from the original. None of them are that great. The production isn't that great. For hardcore fans only, I would say. Number 34, going with Todd Rundgren's Johnson, also from 2011. This is another covers album of Robert Johnson songs. This record does have some good guitar playing on it, but that's about it. The rhythm section sounds like it's completely programmed. Doesn't have a lot of feel to it, especially in the drums. Sounds like it's been quantized strictly to the grid, not a lot of swinger feel to it for a blues record, so that's why that's sitting down pretty low. Number 33 is the album Arena from 2008. This record was supposed to be his return to more guitar rock-oriented music, which it does have some guitar on the record, but the drums and bass have the same problem that they have on Todd Rundgren's Johnson, just very programmed, not a lot of feel for with them. This record does have one highlight for me though. The song Weakness is an excellent track. Alright, moving on, number 32 from 2015. This is a record called Rundens. This is a collaborative album that he did with Emil Nicholson and Lindstrom, electronic artists. So the collaboration brings some authenticity to his electronic music. It has his most interesting and detailed sonic elements and soundscapes that he's had in decades, but unfortunately not much in the way of songs or good songwriting, so the album isn't really all that memorable. Number 31, from 1974, Todd Rundgren's Utopia, the first record that he did with his Utopia band. It's a prog record, without much in the way of songs, pretty much just an hour worth of noodling, with the exception of the song Freedom Fighters. It's kind of a slog to get through, especially the Icon. It's like a half an hour long. I do enjoy some prog rock, but there's nothing sort of at the root of these songs or these jams to make it that interesting. Number 30 from the year 2000, One Long Year. This is a record which is a collection of songs that he released through his internet subscription service. It's really more of an EP with a bunch of odds and ends thrown in as filler. There are some good songs on this, like Buffalo Grass, Where Does the Time Go, and Surf Talks, but not enough quality material to put it higher on the list. And also some of the lesser songs on here just make it feel even that much more insignificant. Number 29 from 2015, the album Global. So he's been doing electronic music for a while now, but this record, Global, is by far the most dance-oriented record that he's done. There are a couple songs here I like. Blind is a good song with a great sax solo, and I like the song Terra Firma, but most of the record doesn't do all that much for me. Number 28, his most recent record from 2017. It's called White Night. So this is another record that's kind of lacking in the production department, a little bit chintzy sounding. Record's heavy on collaborations. There's a lot of different people showing up on this record. Trent Reznor, Joe Walsh, Donald Fagen from Steely Dan, Robin, and many others. The Robin song is the highlight of the record. It's okay, but probably most interesting for the people he's working with rather than the record itself. Number 27 from 2013, the record State. This is another mostly electronic record, but there is some guitar on the record. And here the electronic production feels appropriate for the material. And the song Imagination I like a lot, probably his best song of the 21st century. All right, number 26, the album Liars from 2004. Again, this is mostly electronic album, but it's largely R&B material, so it's kind of suited for the electronic sound. The songwriting is pretty strong, and there's a pretty cohesive sound throughout the record. So while even this isn't maybe my preferred sound that I like to hear Todd working in, it's still a pretty decent record. Number 25 from 1995, The Individualist. This is the follow-up to his 1993 record, No World Order, but this record lacks the focus of that record. There's a few fantastic tracks here. Ultimate Crime and Beloved Infidel in particular are great, but most of this record is fairly forgettable. Number 24 is With a Twist from 1997. This is a record of bossa nova remakes of some of his classic 70s tracks. It's a bit gimmicky of a concept, kind of repackaging songs to sell them. But it's actually a pretty successfully executed concept. Not an essential record of his, but I do find it quite enjoyable to put on. Number 23 is going to be Utopia's Another Live from 1975. This is another heavily progressive record, padded with some covers and live versions of old songs. The Prog stuff here is a little bit better than on the debut Utopia record. The playing seems to be done with more purpose. It's not quite as noodly and aimless. And there's a couple good songs here. The Wheel is great, and The Seven Rays I enjoy. Number 22 from 1975, the album Initiation. This is a very interesting and experimental record. Heavy use of synthesizers here. The song Real Man is a classic. The rest of the album, although it's interesting, doesn't provide much in the way of memorable material. Number 21, the Utopia album from 1977, Raw. This was a transitional record for Utopia. There's still some long progressive rock songs here, but there's also some shorter songs as well with more traditional pop structures. Magic Dragon Theater is great. Love the guitar solo on the song Jealousy, and Communion with the Sun is pretty good as well. Number 20 is going to be Second Wind from 1991. There's some great songs on this album, but the production does sound pretty dated. And there are some songs that he wrote for a musical called Up Against It included here as well. I believe there's 3 songs on this record that he wrote for the musical. So the theatrical nature of those songs paired with the sort of cheesy production are going to make this kind of a difficult listen for anyone new to Rundgren. Although Change Myself and Kindness are great Todd tunes. Number 19, from 1980, the album from Utopia, Deface the Music. This is kind of an odd and unexpected left turn in the Utopia discography. This is basically an album of blatant Beatles ripoffs, kind of in the vein of the Ruddles. They do everything from the Mercy Beat sound all the way through the psychedelic sound of the later Beatles albums. But the Mercy Beat numbers here are actually some great pop songs, and they hold up on their own. I Just Want to Touch You, Crystal Ball, Where Does the World Go to Hide are great pop songs. Number 18, the album from 1977, Utopia's Oops, Wrong Planet. So this is sort of a stop for Utopia at late 70s arena rock on its way to becoming more of a lean new wave power pop band later on. Some of the first truly great Utopia songs are on this record, but there's also quite a bit of material here that's just not that great. Trapped, Love in Action, Back on the Street, Love Is the Answer are the real highlights here. Number 17, from 1982, the album Swing to the Right. This is one of Rundgren's most political records, definitely the most political Utopia record, but it does have some excellent pop songs. Lysistrata, The Up, One World are great pop tunes, and on the track Only Human, he delivers one of the great blue-eyed soul vocals of all time. Number 16, from 1984, the album Oblivion. This is a very cool 80s synth pop album with some excellent songs. There are some weaker tracks here. Without those, it would be a little higher on this list, but there are a number of great songs here. Itch My Brain, Love with a Thinker, I love. If I Didn't Try and Cry Baby are great new wave tunes. Number 15, from 1970, his debut solo record, Runt. This is a great sounding record and has some great songs as well, but it kind of only really hints at the greatness that's to come. Broke Down and Busted is cool, Believe in Me, and of course the hit We Gotta Get You a Woman. It's a very good record. Number 14, Adventures in Utopia from 1980. This is the first really excellent Utopia record. Great songs pretty much the whole way through, and it's the first time that the other members of the band really have songs that stack up to Todd's. Everyone's sort of contributing at a high level. The Road to Utopia is a great song. You Make Me Crazy, Set Me Free, Caravan, Shot in the Dark, Very Last Time, Rock Love are all great songs. Number 13, another Utopia record from 1985, POV. This is sort of similar to Oblivion, but a little less synth heavy and a more consistent batch of songs. Play This Game, Secret Society, Zen Machine, Mated, and Wildlife are all great tracks here. Number 12 from 1983 is the ever popular Tortured Artist Effect. This album was kind of tossed off quickly to satisfy his contractual obligations with Bearsville Records, and it's best known for the novelty hit Bang on the Drum All Day. However, there are quite a few really good, straightforward, simple pop songs on it. It's a very solid and enjoyable record. Hideaway, Influenza, Don't Hurt Yourself, and Drive are my favorite tracks. Number 11 from 1982, the self-titled Utopia record. This is the highest ranking Utopia record on the list. From here on out, it will be all solo records. But pretty much every song on this record is really good, really catchy, great songwriting. Libertine, Bad Little Actress, Hammer in My Heart is an awesome tune with one of my favorite Todd guitar solos. Princess of the Universe is really cool. And two of my favorite Todd songs, I'm Looking at You But I'm Talking to Myself, and There Goes My Inspiration on this record as well. Alright, now for the top 10, some really, really great albums that if you haven't heard any of these, I would highly recommend all of them. Number 10 from 1981, the album Healing. Not his best album musically, but one of the strongest artistic statements of his career. Songs like Healer, Flesh, Compassion, Time Heals, Tiny Demons, and the quirky, enjoyable pop of Golden Goose. It's a really good, solid record. At number 9 from 1976, the album Faithful. Side A of this record is a side of extremely faithful cover songs of classic pop and rock songs. He does Beach Boys, Dylan, the Beatles, as well as some others. Side B is maybe his best side of original material other than Something Anything. Side A does cheapen the album experience a bit. It kind of makes it feel like two EPs rather than an LP, although each side is interesting in its own way. But yeah, side B, every song is really great. Black and White, Love of the Common Man, When I Pray, Cliche, The Verb to Love, just some of his best songs he ever wrote. Number 8 from 1993, the album No World Order. This was probably the hardest record for me to rank. I kind of didn't really feel like one of his most essential records, where it should be way up at the top, but there's something about this record that seems very ahead of its time and interesting. Yeah, it was very difficult to decide where to put this. On one hand, it sounds a little dated. There's something kind of cringy about listening to this sort of middle-aged white guy try his hand at rapping. Yeah, it's kind of strange. But it's very strong musically and lyrically as well. He tried some things with the sequencing on this record where the songs are like chopped apart. You get part of one song and then you go back to it later. Really all I can say is check this one out for yourself. But I would definitely work through some of the albums higher up on this list first. I would wait until you're a little more seasoned with his catalog before putting this one on. Number 7, going with Acapella from 1985. As the title of the record implies, this record was made entirely by sampling and processing his own voice. Again, kind of another gimmicky concept for a record, but he pulls it off extremely well. Very detailed arrangements on this thing and really, really good songwriting. Songs like Blue Orpheus, Johnny Jingo, Pretending to Care, Something to Fall Back On. Just really some really, really good songs. Number 6 from 1974, the album Todd. This sort of dials back the insanity of A Wizard, a True Star a little bit, but it's still all over the place, jumping from pop masterpieces like A Dream Goes On Forever to the blues on a song like Number 1, Lowest Common Denominator. You also have synth instrumentals like The Spark of Life. it's really a great display of Todd's versatility, even though every song might not be super essential. Number 5, from 1989, the album Nearly Human. This record has some dated sounding production, particularly in the keyboard sounds. Has a little bit of that late 80s, early 90s sort of very smooth sound. Not much in the way of rough edges on this thing. It's very rounded out. But the arrangements and the performances and the songwriting and the singing are all incredible on this record. The whole thing was recorded entirely live in the studio. No overdubs. Just such a good record. Good songs like Parallel Lines, Can't Stop Running, Unloved Children, and maybe his best vocal of his career. You really should check out the song Hawking. All right, moving on, number 4 from 1978, the record The Hermit of Mink Hollow. This is his return to pop songwriting after his foray into progressive rock with Utopia and some experimental records that he did, like Wizard of True Star and Todd. Just excellent songs throughout this record. Really cool sounding record as well. There's a few songs here that aren't quite on the level of the others, like Bag Lady, You Cried Wolf, Out of Control, but a lot of really, really strong songs here. All the Children Sing, Can We Still Be Friends, Hurting for You, Too Far Gone, Onomatopoeia, Determination, Lucky Guy. Just really good pop songs. Part of me does wish that a few of those weaker tracks were removed and side B of Faithful was somehow worked into this. I think the best songs from this record and the best songs from Faithful together could have made a record strong enough to compete for the top spot on this list, and probably would have been one of the best records of the 70s. Number 3 from 1972, A Wizard of True Star. So this is an absolutely insane, surreal trip of a record. A very conscious effort on Todd's part to move away from standard pop song formats. You get little fragments of songs here. It'll cut right out into another song, sort of midstream. You get Motown medleys, just sort of really, it's kind of stream of consciousness type of record. But a lot of great fun songs on this record, like International Feel, Never Neverland, Zen Archer, Sometimes I Don't Know What to Feel, Just One Victory. It's very, very ahead of its time, this record, and I think a record that is now influencing a lot of younger artists. Number 2, I'm going with Runt, the Ballad of Todd Rundgren from 1971. This record doesn't really have sort of the weirdness that a lot of his future work would have. This is a very simple singer-songwriter record in the vein of a lot of the other early 70s songwriters, like Jackson Browne, like the Eagles, like Elton John. Just really, really great pop songwriting and great performances. Bleeding, The Wailing Wall, Range War, Chain Letter, Be Nice to Me. Just some of the best songwriting of the early 70s on this record. And at number 1, I'm going with Something Anything from 1972. Part of me did not want to put this record at number 1. I've always wanted people to know more than just this record, and this is the one of his that always gets all the attention. And I feel like he's done so much more that's worthwhile and worth exploring. But this record does get the attention that it gets for a reason. This is the peak of his pop songwriting powers. Has just the right amount of sort of his experimental tendencies thrown in as well. He's starting to mess around in the studio a little bit and letting some more personality come into the songs. It's really just a great blend of both sides of his musical personalities coming through. And of course, you know, all of the great songs on it, and his best known work, I Saw the Light, Hello It's Me, It Wouldn't Have Made Any Difference, Black Mariah, Couldn't I Just Tell You, Torch Song, just a really fantastic record, and a classic that everybody should know. So that is my listography for Todd Rundgren and Utopia. If you like the video, hit like, subscribe to the channel, get yourself set up for notifications by hitting the bell, and please comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys.